Welcome back, everyone, to the Friend or Foe League, the final season, of course, Season 7. My name is Rare Adam. Alongside me tonight is Anti. Super happy to be in the booth with them tonight. How are you doing tonight?
Hello. I'm doing quite well myself, and honestly, I'm extremely excited to see this face-off. YUBI versus Basic Income versus Blue Bayou Zoo. You know, you have members like Champion Red who were on YUBI before, taking on, what we've seen in finals in past seasons. And the fact that they're clashing this early on is so much fun to see. And we're just getting straight into things. LOL analytics just straight on the table. We can see it already.
Exactly, and I mean, we can talk about the history of these teams, most likely once we get into the middle of the game, because both of these teams, we'll just say it right now, they're going to play a little bit slower potentially in those early games, but right now, with the picks that are coming out as well, we do see a lot of scaling. Tajana's coming through as one of those enchanters.
Ooh.
With this Draven, I lied, we're not going to get a slow early game. That wants to just punish a lane there. The Victor, of course, supplant some scaling in the mid lane. Ezreal, Annie already locked in on the opposite side. We've got a whole lot of picks and bans already through, and we can already see the sculpting of these comps coming through from these two artists.
Oh my god. So we've got, the Draven counterpick into the Ezreal and the gauntlet being thrown down by Jaffe, just locking in the Fiora blind, saying, Ultravox, there is nothing on this planet you could pick here to make this Fiora a bad choice. So Red, as someone we've all known and loved for many, many years, is very much a proficient weak side player. Picking that early Ezreal, going to be punished by the side of YUBI. They were so ready for this. Looking to bring the Draven into things. But now that Fiora's on the table, it's a question of, is there something you can pick here that not only plays safely enough into the Fiora to keep her from snowballing, but is there something that you can take here that doesn't require the jungler to come up for it? Because you're going to send everything in the kitchen sink towards that bot lane to try to get that Draven some kills. So I'm expecting to see some kind of tank, like maybe an Ornn, maybe a Gragas, which will get destroyed by Fiora, but keep her from doing too much damage.
It's a matter of what tank they'll pick and when it will get destroyed by Fiora, as opposed to if it will get destroyed by Fiora. And of course, Jaffe, one of the most confident top laners that we've seen across, many seasons of FOF as well. I had the pleasure of playing with him last year. It was amazing having him on my team at that point. But of course, if this does get locked in, it does provide a little bit of counterplay. It's not actually going to be the case. The set gets locked in instead, which of course, it's a matter of when as opposed to if. But at the very least, Ultravox is going to have a little bit more prevalence to punch back a little bit more against this Fiora.
Now, the great thing about the set pick is that if you do get yourself ahead of the Fiora early on with a set, you can actually snowball that. You can actually run away with that lead. It's not like if you're playing Ornn and you have 4 kills to the 0-4 Fiora, she finishes Divine Sunder, and then you just lose automatically, right? Like, this champion actually does have the ability to go blow for blow with the Fiora. But on the side of BBZ, we're rounding out the composition with a solid engage, more AoE CC, more point and click stuns to make sure that champions like utility monsters, iconic Kha'Zix, are not going to be able to slink away.
Yeah, and I'm very intrigued as to how these comps have sort of turned out, because on one side you've got a hefty amount of frontline. You've got Poppy, you've got Leona. Fiora can hold her own as sort of a quasi-frontliner if you go for a little bit of a beefier build. Annie's no slouch as well when it comes to some of those stats. If she's building things like the Rylai's, if she's building the Demonic Embrace, going for a little bit more of that health stacking build, this isn't an easy team to kill for Universal Basic Income. On the opposite side, that's all YUBI want to do. They just want to kill at every single chance possible. You've got a Draven Janna lane there. That's not meant to, scale well into the later stages if you don't get kills. You are all predicating around those kills as well. I'm very curious to see if Inavi and Zen can make that work out as well, because Red and Jacob Dudar have been decent there, if all things considered. Red is not a native bot laner for what we know.
Well, I will say Red was a bot laner for many years. Lucian was his favorite champion, played that a lot, and then Lucian was a mid laner for a long while, so Red's like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna play some mid lane. moves over to mid lane. Lucian moves over to the bot lane. He's like, okay, well, screw this. I'm gonna play some top lane. Lucian stays in the bot lane, and now that he's back in the bot lane, he still has not picked the Lucian. Red, let me see it. Anyway, you'll have to see how things work out on the map, because BBZ have actually had some very strong early games, right? We might have noted that YUBI has the strong early game team composition, but BBZ has a knack for really just getting those early leads, you know, playing the early game well, and utilizing that gold lead until they lose. You know, shades of Dignitas.
Yeah, it's really going to come down to which one of these two titans of FOF's history is going to reign supreme in a lot of ways. BBZ, a team that's been around the block a couple of times. YUBI is a team that's won FOF multiple times as well. There's so much history between these two teams, and it's just another chapter in what can be described as the chronicles of YUBI and BBZ. But of course, we should be heading into game shortly here. I want to see if YUBI can really play around that bot lane that we've mentioned so much. This Draven Janna is definitively feast or famine. They need to get kills, and if they aren't able to find kills in that early game, I worry for YUBI's later game.
Yeah, I mean, one thing also to note, right? You know, that Leona pick was picked into the Janna. You know, they understand that this laning phase itself is going to be relatively difficult to really force in. Dax and Utility Monster throwing a few love taps here and there. Fire Mana right in the wings. Do they know? All right, you know, just trying to get a little bit of extra damage off here and there, but nothing too crazy just yet. But I don't know. Either way, it's a question as to how hard can Draven snowball to make Red's life a living hell? How hard can Fiora snowball to make Set's life a living hell? You know, it's so back and forth. But only time will tell how things truly develop.
Yeah, and of course, we see Civil Lock there getting a nice little 7 gold or so from that first strike. But Jaffe already doing a little bit of work onto Ultravox. Your next lunge is going to come through as well. This isn't a trade that Ultravox really wants to take, because now you've basically used up all your abilities. Jaffe's still going to have those vitals available. Ultravox is in a lot of trouble. The flash forward from Jaffe is not going to end up finding that kill. Didn't have that lunge back up in time. Still finds a final love tap there. Ultravox going to be limping back to base there, forced to burn both of those summoners, most likely to get back to lane, and that's an early advantage in favor of Jaffe.
Yeah, and Jaffe just making full use of that level 1 prowess with the Fiora, able to get so much damage off, and very close to getting a kill. That vital, honestly, procced in the perfect spawn location for Jaffe to pounce for the kill, but just a little bit less move speed than hoped for means that Ultravox gets away, not scot-free by any means, but away nonetheless.
Yeah, you know, Ultravox is going to be able to survive this, but Jaffe has thus far made sure that Set is hungry for CS at this point. Hasn't gotten a single one. Jaffe full control over this wave. So much XP in that lead here. You know, going to be working towards that level 3 now. Ultravox will tick over to level 2 just now, but how does the trade work out there? Jaffe getting pulled back, forced to burn that riposte very early just in case. But once again, this wave crashing into Ultravox is something to be worried about. You can see Utility Monster already starting to pace up there. This is exactly the opposite of what we wanted to see. We wanted to see Utility Monster consistently going to that bot lane. Now that your top lane's in a little bit of trouble here, you might have to visit that lane once or twice to make sure Jaffe doesn't just go off the rails.
Yeah, I mean, Utility Monster just continuing with the tried, the true, the classic, the full clear. Gonna go straight from bot to top, and maybe look for an opportunity to fight Jaffe in the long top lane. But, you know, both of the junglers right now just showing a bit of a difference in the style, where Dax trying to make sure that nothing crazy happens on bot side, so pathing towards the bot lane, making sure, you know, to be that counter gank potential, while Utility Monster wants to make something happen in this early game. But these are two different, you know, playstyles that we're not really used to seeing from these teams. Usually it's the opposite. Usually it's BBZ going all in for the early game craziness, and YUBI just saying, you know what, we scale, we can make the comebacks. Yeah,
it is one of those potentials for YUBI where you got to try and get into this early game lead as best as possible, and while Navi's doing a good job of holding the line thus far, realistically, we wanted to see this kill threat come through a little bit earlier, and it just hasn't been there quite yet. So this slower early game, we have to say, should favor towards BBZ.
Yeah, I mean, BBZ right now in a little bit of trouble. Fireman getting engaged on here, and just like that, look at bot lane.
Now the fighting begins down here. Jacob Dudar needs to be careful, though, taking a hefty chunk of damage from that Draven on the way out. You do have to be careful of those early trades against the Draven, because every single time that Draven with those empowered auto attacks will win out on those trades, but still, it's good looks to see that BBZ aren't rolling over and dying in this lane. They're at least giving it a decent fight as Jaffe, once again, going to town on Ultravox past the wave. No matter what Jaffe is doing in this lane, whether he's winning or losing the trades, he's preventing Ultravox from just being comfortable in this lane. And I think that is very important, especially as Dax starts to peek an eye up towards here, see if something is amiss.
Yeah, and one of the things to note here is this wave is humongous. There's so little that Ultravox can do right now, but you have to try to thin out the wave, have to get some vision into your jungle to avoid a dive. You might be set, but this is incredibly dangerous. And instead, Dax and Jaffe going to back off and say, hey, you know what, let's spend some money, make use of this lead, and get a little bit more of extra pressure on the map rather than going for the dive on the set. I mean, either way, you know, whether it's the right call or not, who's to say? But Ultravox is going to be able to pick up some much needed gold on the set here. And with a lethal tempo, likely going to be going into a Bork for something very heavy 1v1 focus. So you really, really need to make sure that the set can get those items, get that gold, and get the ability to stand up to this Fiora.
Yeah, and Jaffe picked up a Sheen and just will have that extra Spellblade proc to use in some of these engages. And that's what I start to worry about for Ultravox here, is that these Spellblade procs you can't really deal with much, but level 6 now on Ultravox, a little bit of an extra advantage. Jaffe still ends up winning out on that trade, just the riposte. Every single time you use that for the Haymaker, you're going to be feeling pretty confident in things. But of course, Utility Monster are going to be doing what they do best, which is take early dragons for the side of YUBI. Pretty much uncontested for now. Dax might actually peer over to see if there is something to do. Utility Monster isn't the healthiest right now. Dax just going to be sort of walking in here. Utility Monster in trouble. That's just going to be First Blood donated over to the Poppy. Dax checks at the right time, and there's nothing Utility Monster can do to get out.
Yeah, and that's the thing about playing in competitive for multiple years, right? When you have things that start being iconic about your playstyle, your opponents have things that they can actively look to punish. And Dax has played against Utility Monster time and time and time again, and now seeing that the dragon's up, knowing that Utility Monster is going to try to do something crazy with it on spawn, the moment that you see he's not in a lane, you sprint straight to that dragon. You make sure to get that kill, flashing completely in, and super heavy commitment. But that first kill going over to BBZ, the scaling composition here is very good for them.
Yeah, very good to get that Poppy, that early dragon as well, because champion that can't really solo it down was given a massive leash by Utility Monster, who can solo that down. Granted, might have been against a better judgment, considering where the bot lane was as well. We were looking at that bot lane. It was pretty even. You don't really have that priority. You're trying to sneak it. It is a very risky play, and it ends up being punished in kind. But now, a 1,000 gold lead erupting between these two teams. Once again, CS lead currently for Jaffe, but the wave pushing into Ultravox. I think the main thing that we have to look at is the fact that Dax has been clearing faster than Utility Monster, who has tried to make some of these plays happen, as we see here. They just haven't really been that successful. Utility Monster shows up, tries to burn a summoner spell, and there's just no moss.
Yeah, I mean, if you look in the Trash Talk channel, you'd see Ultravox complaining multiple times that Utility Monster just struggles to gank early on, and right here we're starting to see that really come into fruition, right? You know, Kha'Zix as a champion, not necessarily the most crazy ganking jungler, but very heavy focus on the farm here. You know, really wants that level 6, really wants that stealth to get into lane, that, you know, upgraded Q here. Ooh. But right now Ultravox could be in some trouble.
Yeah, Ultravox has to be careful. I think Jacob Dudar is just up here to prevent that Rift Herald from going down the opposite way, potentially support that play as well. Ultravox now just left to sort of pick up the pieces. It is started out, and when we get the items back up here, I want to take a look at something here from Dax, because he went for, honestly, the new league item, or the pendant thing. It gives you armor. It builds into Evan Shroud, and that's what I'm curious about, is Jaffe also looking for a play. Utility Monster just going to be zoned way out here. Dax will end up picking that one up. But yeah, that's the component that builds into Evan Shroud and into Locket. So this is more of a supportive build coming through from Dax. A little bit of a switch up from what we normally see out of Poppy jungles, which is a little bit more of that damage focus with the Divine Sunderer. I'm curious to see how this plays out, because I like this look, all things considered. Lifewell Pendant, thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, Lifewell Pendant and Even Shroud have actually gotten a huge, amount of popularity in the jungle lately. As, support items, as we all know and love them, have so much gold efficiency for so little gold. And if you're playing a more supportive jungler like Poppy, where you're not really going to be 1v1ing the enemy jungler at any point in time, why not just take the time to make sure that your team can do as much damage as physically possible? Meanwhile, Ultravox is going to be opting for the Gore Drinker Rush here. Very interesting choice with the lethal tempo. Usually when you see the lethal tempo, it's very, very heavy focus on the 1v1, right? You go the Bork, the Stride Breaker, stuff that really keeps your opponent in place, so that way you can get as many autos off as possible. Meanwhile, the Gore Drinker, does allow you to get more abilities off in a team fight. It does allow you to stay alive for a little bit longer with the Omni Vamp, but very little in terms of the 1v1 focus in comparison.
Yeah, granted, right now it's still going to be a general win here, fighting on both sides of the map here as Utility Monster makes an appearance on the bottom side. Jacob Dudar is just going to be able to walk out of there, as is Jaffe on the top side, granted, at the cost of that flash. Utility Monster actually taken down to double-digit HP by Red as well, so despite Utility Monster trying to be proactive in this early game, it really hasn't worked, because another thing to keep in mind, 11 minutes into this game, 0 Dark Harvest stacks on the Kha'Zix, and that is a champion that if you're able to get 5, 6, 7 Dark Harvest stacks in the early game, you can start to snowball the game out of control. Utility Monster hasn't been able to do that thus far.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's 2 hits and 2 misses from the side of YUBI here, as both the top laner and the jungler really tried to force that in, but unfortunately neither of them able to get the kills. We're able to get some plates on the top side for Ultravox. I believe it is 1 plate that ended up going down here. Civilog, on the other hand, might be in a little bit of trouble here. Gonna greed out for the cannon, but not going to be in too big of an issue.
Yeah, the wave there was just a little bit too big, I think, for any sort of play to erupt from there. Civilog just going to be taking that one back to the bank. And something I want to check on in the items as well, Dax should be very close to finishing that mythic item, and something that it's already done. First mythic item of the game completed there. Civilog was just able to complete their own. That's why we like to see some of these supportive mythics come through, because you get a mythic so early, you get those bonus stats, but now Utility Monster jumping in ahead of the curve, taken down by Jacob Dudar. Not the best to pick up the kill, but it's a kill nonetheless. Jacob Dudar now taking a lot of damage on the back end of that, will be able to back out. Great ultimate coming through from Zenzen to keep the team alive with that Monsoon, as it is more damage dealt the opposite way. Red needs to be careful, is knocked up. Ultravox is running in here, forces the flash out of Red, and it all is for 1 kill and multiple summoner spells burned, but nonetheless, BBZ end up ahead.
Yeah, BBZ might be ending up ahead, but right now YUBI are going to be the ones able to pick up the dragon. Utility Monster giving his life away at the very beginning of the fight to just decimate Red's health bar, and taking him out of the fight means that the jungler does exactly what the jungler needs to do, and that is secure the objectives, whether or not you have to put your body on the line. But either way, Rift Herald going down in the mid lane means that Civilog going to be taking a little bit of damage on that tower. Not too happy about that. Fireman, on the other hand, very, very happy about the new influx of gold in their lane.
And something else to note is, despite the dragon going over to YUBI, and despite it being generally an okay play, Utility Monster dies. 4 plates are taken on the top side of the map. Jaffe. He did the Jaffe thing where he just stays top lane. Sometimes he'll solo Rift Herald. Sometimes he'll just take your entire tower. And it's all off the back of Ultravox needing to go down to try and help out that team, forcing out the flash from Red. It is the potential for gold in the end if you're burning summoner spells, but it's guaranteed gold on Jaffe here. And now Jacob Dudar is here. Ultravox slowed way up here. Grand Challenge will be issued. Not a whole lot you can do. Great repose coming through from Jaffe as well. everything burned from Ultravox that was available, and now is forced all the way back. Zenzen now has to answer this wave. And across the map, it is just a full court press coming through from BBZ. They are feeling excellent about their current game state.
Yeah, and now Cibolock dragged over to the top side to try to defend this tower. Means that Firemana and Dax can have a big opening to start punching down that mid tower. You know, it's already at the half health from the earlier Rift Herald. Instead, Firemana looking here for a pick to try to take care of Cibolock or someone else who comes in to take care of this wave. Ultravox instead just gonna walk straight down into the mid lane. You know, you are the set. No matter whether or not you have the magic resist, you're going to be more than happy to lane against someone who doesn't do percent health max true damage. Either way, Ultravox right now just gonna continue to pelt away at the wave, trying to pick up as much gold as possible without the Fiora in tow. Cibolock just gonna rotate right on over here though as Navi and oh my god, Zenzen?
Yeah, Zenzen was looking for the Genesect there. Might have held it a little bit too long as Red just able to arcane shift their way out of that one. And we mentioned that there's no percent health true damage at least coming through from the Annie, but there is that magic burn coming down from that Leandries. We mentioned it off the rep that, these burn damage items are going to be really difficult to deal with if you don't have that much of a front line as well. It's still a lot of damage that you got to deal with, as Jaffe can just go to town here on Ultravox. The Divine Sunder already complete. You talk about true damage, you talk about percent health damage. Divine Sunder just going to be giving you a little bit extra of all of those things in that way as well. So nonetheless, Jaffe feeling excellent about this current game state. I want to bring it back as well and look at someone we haven't talked about a whole lot. We talked a lot about them in draft, but 16 minutes in, Anavi has been left scoreless thus far. And if we look at the stacks that are available right now, if we can get our observer to hover the Draven here, we'll be able to see that there is a significant amount of stacks that have come through on Draven, and ideally, you're trying to cash those out sooner rather than later. It is all of this potential gold that is here for YUBI, but none of it has really been cashed out yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much standing gold, right? You got the Draven stacks, you got the towers that are standing on the Rift, you got Cibolock in a lot of trouble here. Hold on, Champion Red arcane shifting forward and not going to be able to get too much for that one. Shades of Jackie Love as Ezreal going to be doing just fine. Fully completed mythics across the board for BBZ. Only Jacob Dudar in the lagging behind, but Inavi on the other hand is going to be able to take down the entire tower here. Draven has so much gold in the pocket and so much gold waiting. 132 farm while being able to stack your Qs on repeat. That's gotta be a humongous amount of stacks.
Yeah, and I think another thing is that it's Trinity Force Draven. This is something that's a little bit different from potentially what we're used to as well, but can hit really hard on that first auto attack. You're really playing for those Sheen procs. Would I prefer to see an Essence Reaver? Ideally, I think you could have gone for Collector first item as well, which has been sort of buffed to play that way a little bit more, but nonetheless, we're still waiting for that potential to realize itself, and thus far, it's been a very quiet game across the board. There's been a lot of potential action, as we've talked about, but no real action. We've had 2 kills. It's 17 and a half minutes in. We talked about how this could be a potentially a slow early game, and they lock in Draven. I'm like, okay, forget that. But it ends up still being a slow early game, and we're just waiting for something to happen, as now a teleport being expended into this mid lane here to potentially answer the dragon control that is going over to BBZ. We might get a fight here finally as Dax going to dash into that wall there with Utility Monster. Big punch coming down from Ultravox. Fireman is forced out of here. Jacob Dudar forced to flash over the wall. No cash out there. Utility Monster face plants there. The bug goes splat against that wall. Will still end up finding their mark with a flash. That's going to be Jacob Dudar removed from play, but Jaffe, in the meantime, has just been pushing down on this bottom side of the map. Dragon going to be started by the side of YUBI, stalling out Dax for the meantime, not letting this Poppy get into the pit. No ultimate available to come in here. Jaffe now starting to rotate over. Dragon's at 3k HP, 2k HP, and it's dropping quickly. Dax needs to be careful. He's going to get stunned up. They're going to finish off that Dragon. Is YUBI. Big Monsoon going to come down as well as Jaffe gets tossed into that backline. Dax under pressure. It's still going to stay alive for so long. Will not die as Dax. Firemana will be falling on the opposite side of that fight as it's 3 kills going the way of YUBI Versling. Basic income. It ends up being 5 total across the entire fight as they sweep that fight and they bring themselves back into this game.
Yeah, and crucially, Navi able to pick up the cash in. So much gold on the Draven now. I gotta see how much is in this dude's pocket.
Yeah, well, try and get a check on how much is there. Yeah, 1900.
Oh,
And
jeez.
when we hover the Draven passive as well, we'll be able to see how many stacks they were actually able to cash out as well. And that's what's really important, because you're finally able to realize that potential. Has 11 of them right now. Just got to hover down to what, the third Draven portrait. He has so many portraits of himself. Draven's just a narcissist. That's what it is.
I mean, what better champion to play the narcissist than Draven, you know? Like, narcissist through and through. As well, you were talking about Collector earlier.
Oh,
and oh baby.
Yeah, 1,000 gold cashed out just from that passive. Effectively a 1,600 gold kill there for the Draven, all things considered. You have your 2 items now. All of a sudden, YUBI has brought it back in here. And you know what? They were down in the early game. They were down throughout the early parts of this mid game, but you just needed that 1 kill on a Navi to really push them over the edge. And all of a sudden, Red's behind, which is strange to say with how well Red has been playing thus far.
Yeah, I mean, YUBI's nothing if not consistent. And once again, you know, after being behind in the laning phase, they're going to be able to bring it back through their superior team fighting. BBZ, no slouches when it comes to team fighting. But, you know, I said it before in Champ Select, right? Sometimes they're showing a few shades of Dignitas. Until they lose, they're winning. Right? You know, they play these lanes so well. They play the early game macro incredibly well. You know, they obviously have the smarts. They obviously have the ability to play it out. It's a question of the moment anything goes wrong, do you have the mental fortitude to find exactly what your win condition is, to find exactly what you need to be playing through? As in Navi, being able to pick up that much gold still isn't able to make use of it just yet. But if YUBI can get one of their signature team fights once again, where Ultravox can just slam straight into the back line and take all of the aggro, you know, maybe YUBI still have, you know, the potential to take control of this game from behind.
Yeah, granted, with how this map feels right now, it is still very much in BBZ's back pocket, that they have this map control. They've got the split push going for themselves. Thus far, they've done an incredible job of forcing Civillock and Navi to both be mid lane to deal with this push that is coming through. Jaffe's just allowed to have free reign on this top side of the map. And as we mentioned, in this matchup, while Set can take leads and can get ahead, it's more of a matter of when Fiora is going to come online. And thus far, almost 2 completed items. This is going to be something you have to really keep an eye on if you're the side of YUBI here, because as time goes on, Jaffe's going to become more of a thorn in your side. You really need to shut down this Fiora soon, because right now, just given so much free real estate.
Yeah, I mean, Fiora might be getting a lot of free gold, but the most terrifying thing is she still has not finished the Ravenous Hydra. So Divine Sunder, very good item, but the moment that Hydra gets finished up, this lane might as well be over. There's very little that Ultravox can do to ever push her out of the lane. And speaking of which, Jacob Dudar eventually going to get pushed out here. Utility Monster in a lot of trouble. Never mind, as everyone's going to be doing just fine after that ulti just pelts across the wave.
Everyone wanted to fight, and then they realized no one could fight. Just ends up being a little bit of a back off there. Good tornado coming through from Zenzen to disengage the possible engages coming through. Good disengage as well from Dax, Hex flashing over that wall to ensure the rest of the team's safety. But nonetheless, this mid lane siege has been going on quite literally since the last dragon. So we're just sort of waiting for this next dragon fight to erupt. And once again, you can see YUBI positioning for this. Ultravox has that teleport. Jaffe has that teleport. It really comes down to who sort of pulls trigger first, and that's exactly what you need from Dax. Forces the flash out of Utility Monster, doesn't have that jump out. And that's going to be Dax finding another kill onto Utility Monster. This Kha'Zix is 1-4, and sometimes you got to question the pick in these situations. You picked it B5, you didn't really have a frontliner. This is one of those situations where maybe you start to question it, but now fighting across the map, the shutdown picked up by a Red. On the opposite side of the map, Jaffe's trying to win out on this one. Jaffe doesn't have the sauce.
Oh my god.
Ultravox going to be able to win out on that one. So in a twist of fates, we talked about how this Fiora is so difficult to 1v1. Ultravox says, I don't care about stats, I'm just going to win.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's the set mentality, right? It doesn't matter how far you are behind. Just got to keep fighting, right? As long as you get that 1 kill, you know, that one win, you should be able to do just fine. Ultrafox TPing in here. This could be a big in. Jacob Dudar stunned up and looking for the ultimate, not available here. But Navi's gonna do so much damage.
Now Ultravox forced to get on the run, actually! Red gonna finish that off with a Sheen proc, I believe. They get the Dragon, they get a kill. It is support traded for top laner. Ultravox burned everything for that one, but didn't have that ultimate available. And sometimes you do have to question whether that was a worthwhile teleport to get in there, try and find that angle. Nonetheless, it is a Dragon going over the way of BBZ as they once again reclaim a little bit more control over this map. But nonetheless, back and forth we go between these two teams. Anything less than this would be a disappointment. Utility Monster, though, taking a lot of damage in the jungle from Dax. Jaffe able to kill Civillock off screen there. Now all tied up in the kills, but still the lead towards BBZ as they continue to try and find their angles. We get a quick little instant replay there. Civillock, yeah, you just get chased down by Jaffe. He's got far too many dashes, far too much mobility and movement speed. Way too difficult to deal with that.
Yeah, and that, crucially, you know, the flash that was up during the last 1v1 against Ultrafox. Last time, Jaffe said, you know what, I'm going to be able to hold on to this. I'm going to be able to, you know, secure this kill regardless of whether or not I flash here. This time says, you know what, I didn't burn it and I died last time. I'm just going to burn it at the beginning. You know, 100% just fully committing all in 15, you know, 16 stacks now on that Ravenous Hydra. Not too tanky just yet, in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, or who's actually in trouble? Yeah, Jaffe's gonna clean that one up on a Utility Monster. Now it's a little bit more trouble for Jaffe. Doesn't have that grand challenge quite yet. Can even flash the Mastery back and forth here. And now actually, Ultravox, who doesn't have that ultimate, doesn't have that flash available, will be thrown in to challenge the gauntlet thrown down, and Jaffe clears it out once again. You can put him down in lane, you can put him down for 25 minutes, but it is always a matter of when the line will be unleashed. The opposite side of the map, Baron taken by the side of BBZ. It was all a ruse on the opposite side. Jacob Dudar playing Gatekeeper as well. Everywhere, BBZ are just finding victories for themselves as Jaffe does. I don't care about the rest of the fight. I'm just going to take this bot lane inhibitor potentially.
Yeah, you know, once again, a Jaffe moment, just going to play his own game, and play his own game he will. And he is so dang good at playing his own game, because usually what teams will do is they'll send someone into a split push. They'll say, hey, you know what? When they send 1 or 2 people at me, you just take the Baron on the other side of the map, or take the Dragon on the other side of the map, and I'll be doing fine here. Jaffe says, yeah, I'm going to split push. They're going to send people at me, and I'm going to kill them. I do not care whether it's 1, whether it's 2, whether it's 3. Jaffe started the last back at 0 kills, 2 deaths. Jaffe now has 3 kills. This is terrifying to deal with.
Gonna be going for the Hull Breaker as well. Just 3,000 gold up on the lane opponent. Fire Mana, though, is not Jaffe. Unfortunately, cannot 1v3 in those situations. Granted, Utility Monster is going to be taking a hefty amount of damage on the way out. A good attempt from Fire Mana, but once again, a little bit of a distraction for what's happening through the mid lane here. While it is a lot of damage on that tower, won't be taken quite yet. This Baron has found so much efficiency throughout the first half of its duration. And to think that that's not it. There's still more to come. There's still more Jaffe split pushing you're going to have to deal with against that Baron. And it is oh so challenging for YUBI to find a way back into this one. This game on paper looks so even, but those towers, that CS in Jaffe's pocket are really the difference makers right now. We have about a 3,500 gold difference between these two teams. Jaffe's gold lead over Ultravox right now, about 3,500.
Yeah, and one thing that's super, super terrifying to look at here is Jaffe's items. Right now, you have the Phage, you have the Pickaxe. That could go into one of 2 items. It can either become a Stair Stage, or it can become a Hull Breaker.
It's always a Hull Breaker.
Oh, boy. Yep. Yeah, there's the Hull Breaker. So I was about to say, Stair Gauge means that you might actually see Jaffe in a team fight. A terrifying prospect. But a Hull Breaker means that Jaffe gets to play his game, but this time on easy mode. Because now he gets to get so much extra damage on the towers. He gets to get so much extra push with the Siege Minion. And he takes so much less damage. And BBZ are very happy to just play the 4-man game and let Jaffe do his own thing. Because God, is it working well.
Exactly. Jaffe plays this almost team-centric, selfish playstyle where he says, you know what, listen. The rest of my team, I love them. I want him to do well. I'm going to go do my own thing. And he's a silent assassin, because, of course, playing on a team with him, Jaffe will say, like, 4 words throughout the entire game and just do this stuff. And he'll just take your towers, he'll solo kill your top laner, he'll 1v2, he'll 1v3, he'll 1v4, he'll do whatever he so desires, and it seems as if he's getting back to work here. Jaffe getting to work on Ultravox here. Grand Challenge thrown down onto Utility Monster, used as a little bit of an escape tool, actually. Jaffe might actually look to go back in here, but there are 4 members on this top side of the map. Jaffe says, that's far too many members for me to deal with at this current point in time. Look at what's happening on the opposite side. It's the Dragon being taken by the side of BBZ. Jaffe's still going to be looking for that. They don't have enough damage to deal with him right now. Jaffe still in the 1v2, getting knocked back and everything.
Hullbreaker.
Looking for as many vitals as possible. Hullbreaker starting to kick in here, as you mentioned, but now the damage is starting to mount up. Jaffe needs to find a way out of this one. He's fighting in the minion wave. Utility Monster needs to flash out of there as well, and now Zen in trouble is going to have to back off.
Here comes Ultravox.
Pushed against 2 members here. He's now got a 3rd member here as well. He finds the stun. Jaffe will get ulted, will finally get shut down after a minute of fighting. And look at what BBZ has done on the opposite side of the map. It's a dragon, it's an inhibitor taken, and it's so much time burned off the clock.
And just like that, you know, we've said before, Jaffe, you know, ever the silent player, right? You know, does not have to say a single thing, simply lets his actions do it for him. Champion Red, you know, if you ever play the Pokemon games, that's basically Red's whole shtick. Jaffe is the one being the, you know, the person to really look at the top of the mountaintop. Speaking of looking at, oh my lord, the huge amount of ultimates just going straight through BBZ. All 3 members going to be able to walk out relatively healthy. It feels like there's nothing that YUBI can do in the face of this team.
It's almost ironic that you bring up the Champion Red shtick about being quiet and everything, because Red as a player is the least quiet person you could play with. He is very vocal. He is, you know, he's got the ego about him. He's gonna say what he wants to say, and you're gonna have to deal with it. And thus far, has been having a great performance on this Ezreal. It's just been so challenging for YUBI to ever get any control over this game. While they were able to find a big fight, while they have been able to get Anavi a couple of cash outs, while Anavi hasn't died yet, has not lost any stacks throughout this game, they're still somehow behind, and that is what perplexes me in a sense, because we would expect YUBI, the tried and true, the ever consistent top dogs of the league, to be able to find some sort of angle back into this game, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to be the case. Civillock just going to be shut down by Fire Mana, Dax, and Red. Jaffe's just going to be getting to work occupying 3 or 4 members here in this mid lane. It's no big deal. This is just Jaffe doing his thing as he dashes forward into 4 members and they let him walk out.
Yeah, and Jaffe now the one going to be chasing them down as Red hopping over the wall with Dax. Oh my lord, everyone going straight in here. But Utility Monster doesn't do any damage.
Fire Mana has the ultimate as well. If they group up too closely, Tibbers will do a hefty chunk of damage. The Monsoon going to be used as a preventative measure, but Jaffe's just able to find Utility Monster on the side of this fight here. This could be the game right here. Ultravox going to try and throw someone back into the rest of the team. Huge punch coming down. That's a 1300 true damage to Champion Red, but that just isn't enough. It's a double kill picked up by Jaffe as Anavi now trying to fight this one out. Will not be able to do so. Finally, the Draven will fall. Will get a last cash out before their fall as Fire Mana falls as well, but nonetheless, it is 2 members of YUBI against the world here. Civillock flashing forward, trying to shut down Red, but there's just not enough damage. Jaffe does not care about the fight, continues to work away at these towers. The damage is not there to deal with Jaffe. Jaffe's going to be the one dishing out the damage instead himself. Zen and Civillock trying to hold the gates, trying to keep this game alive. They will finally shut down the French assassin on the top side. The Fiora will fall, and this game will continue for just a little bit longer.
Yeah, and we can see it time and time again. Jaffe is definitely the one to be worried about with this team composition. Literally just walked at Utility Monster, and we watched as the Bug Assassin tried his hardest to survive, tried to get away from the French warrior in the top lane, and dear lord, is it difficult to get away from Fiora, especially in the hands of someone as skilled as Jaffe.
Yeah, this game has sort of fallen off the rails a little bit. As weird as it seems to say that, at a 4,000 gold deficit for a universal basic income, it's the vibes of the game. And sometimes you just have to pass the vibe check, right? Right now, the vibes are that Jaffe is absolutely destroying everyone, and Red is doing a whole bunch of damage to supplant that as well. It is so difficult for YUBI to find any avenue to get back into this game. As we mentioned, in the last time that Jaffe was top lane 1v4, the rest of the team was taking Dragon. They were taking that bottom inhibitor. They were opening up this map, and now with an exposed Nexus, Jaffe with TP, and a Hullbreaker, your base is not safe ever.
Yeah, I mean, Jaffe, incredibly difficult to deal with here. But, you know, you also have to look at the rest of the team, right? Firemana just going to continue to keep everyone slowed with that Rylai's, with that Tibbers. Jacob Dudar just always going to make it difficult for anyone to get on top of Red. And oh my lord.
He's TPing into the base, and Jaffe is all alone. Flashing forward, there's a teleport to try and follow, but it might just be too late. Ultravox.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Too late. Jaffe just gonna dash right through there. Does not care a bit. That's the game.
Oh my lord, whether you're in the fountain or in the ground, Jaffe does not care. He will simply walk towards that Nexus and end the game on his own terms. Dragon about to come up, Baron about to come up. Jaffe just straight up beelines it towards the Nexus, and in the end, there's nothing that you can do against Jaffe's Fiora. Blue Bayou Zoo going to be taking it over YUBI, something that they've been trying to do time and time again.
Yeah, and now both of these teams going to be sitting at 4-4, smack dab in the middle of the pack. It brings an interesting narrative to the forefront here, Anti, where both of these teams, who have been perennially very strong candidates to win, of course, YUBI winning multiple times, all of a sudden they're put in a situation where they've got some work to do in that second half. And I think Blue Bayou Zoo can take away a lot from this game, knowing it is a pivotal win for them to get back to 500, to get back on the right foot, and to beat a very skilled team in YUBI. Now, I want to see what they can cook up for the rest of the season, because I think there's a lot that this BBZ team can do and can accomplish in looking for their first title as well. That really brings a lot of different storylines here, and this game going the way it did with Jaffe just, you know, top diffing and then ending the game on their lonesome. It's poetic in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it before, and I'm expecting to see it again. But BBZ have been developing so well as a team, and Jaffe at the forefront of that game is going to make things so much more simple when you can just hop into the Jaffe backpack and let yourself be carried across the finish line.
Of course, but that concludes this game. We have one more on the docket for tonight. It will be Pandas with Hats versus Pentakill Teemo Please. We're going to take a short break while we get that game set up for you. When we are back, we'll have the final game of the night here for you. Don't go anywhere. You're watching FOF.